We won't allow the territories of Myanmar against the India's interest. That has been highlighted by the military leader and the president of Myanmar in his recent visit to India. So why we have to discuss in detail about the India and Myanmar relation? Because these are certain news which highlights the significance of Myanmar from the perspective of the India's northeastern region. And that's why this particular topic is important from the examination perspective as well. So let's decode this particular topic. Now, talking about why Myanmar matters more than even for India. Because if you talk about the future of the northeastern part of India, along with that, it is sharing the vast amount of border with the northeastern states. And along with that, don't forget that this is the only country with which the northeastern states are connected to the Southeast Asia. And that's why, because of all these reasons, Myanmar is very, very important. Now, in today's discussion, we are going to discuss regarding what are the significant developments that were there, along with that certain important aspect from the perspective of Myanmar. So let's start the discussion. Now, when we talk about Myanmar, it is having more than 1600 kilometers border with the 4 northeastern states. And these particular states include Arunachal Pradesh, roughly 520 kilometers of border, Nagaland, more than 200 kilometers of border, Manipur, roughly 398 kilometers, and Mizoram, more than 500 kilometers of border. And these particular borders are very, very significant because if you talk about the geography in this particular region, this entire geography is rugged. The terrain is very, very difficult, and that's why it is very important in order to guard this region and to prevent any such anti-India activities that is originating from this particular region of Myanmar, and that will try to create certain sort of instability in the northeastern part of India. Now, talking about the India and Myanmar relation, certain things which are very, very much significant is the security related concerns. And that's what is the major aspect from the perspective of India and Myanmar relation. Now, when we talk about the security as the most important concerns originating from the Myanmar region, and the reason is the fragile border. Now, why it is fragile? As I have already discussed that there is the rugged terrain. That means that particular terrain is very difficult in order to guard. And when the terrain is very, very difficult, the normal guarding of the border or border fencing mechanism cannot be that much easily possible. And that's why the difficulty is in order to guard the border. And that's where the role of the modern day technology is going to come into picture. And that's what is being highlighted in the recent visit of the Myanmarese president. Along with that, don't forget that from 2021 onwards, there has been the civil war-like situation in the Myanmar. So when we talk about the civil war-like situation in the Myanmar post 2021 coup, so there has been change of the order in Myanmar, and then there is instability. Different sort of government, including the military government, is ruling. And that's why this instability in the country that also makes the border unstable. And that's why there is an issue pertaining to the border related security. And it's not the only issue. The unstable or the unstable border at the end of the Myanmar and India border, specifically the 4 states of the northeastern India, there is other threats also associated with that. So if there is instability in the region of Myanmar, that will create the migration of large number of refugees from Myanmar to India, and that's where there will be large amount of illegal immigration. That is the threat number 1. Apart from that, origination of the anti-India activity. That is the threat number 2, because there are many such groups which include NSCN, which includes ULFA, and these particular groups are doing certain anti-India activities. They are doing certain attacks in Indian territory, and then they are getting shelter in the Myanmarese territory. And this is what is being highlighted by the Myanmarese president, that we won't allow any anti-India activities originating from that particular region. And that is in consonance with the Gujarat doctrine, which also highlighted regarding the neighborhood countries of India should not be involved in any anti-India activity. This is what the India's expectations are. Now, talking about the another important issue is the drug trafficking. Why? Because if you observe the territory of Myanmar, it is the part of the Golden Triangle, and that's where the large amount of the illegal drug trafficking and that particular trafficked drugs are coming to the region of Northeast, and that's why it is also impacting the demography of the Northeast, and that is why this is also the important threat which we have to get rid of. Apart from that, massive refugee influxes, we have already talked about it. Now, apart from that, since this particular country, Myanmar, is very significant, because if you observe that the region of the Myanmar is having border with the 4 states, and these particular 4 states are connected with Myanmar, and then there is no other states which is directly getting connected to, apart from Myanmar, any other Southeast Asian country. And that's why Myanmar is very important, because it provides a bridge from the South Asia to the Southeast Asia. And that's why we should be having an idea regarding that we are having the dilemma at the chicken's neck, where the Siliguri corridor is the region from where we are getting connectivity to the Northeast. And India is always having this particular dilemma. And in order to get rid of this dilemma, Myanmar is the country which is offering the help. How Myanmar is offering the help? So for that, the connectivity related aspects from Myanmar, which include first, which is the Kaladan Multimodal Project, which is connecting the Kolkata region, and then it is connecting through the sea route Sitwe, then through the over the river route to the Paletwa, and then from there is the over the land route that is connecting till the region of Mizoram. So what it is doing? It is reducing this particular dilemma that India is having at the region of the chicken's neck corridor ya fir Siliguri corridor, and we are getting alternative connectivity. This is not the only project, but apart from that, there is the India-Myanmar-Thailand Trilateral highway. So this particular highway, roughly 1300 kilometer plus highway, which is connecting to the region of Manipur in the More region, and specifically it is connecting via Myanmar to the region of Thailand, and in Thailand it is the Mysot region. So it is from More to Mysot, it is getting connectivity, and that's how you are connecting India with Myanmar and then to Thailand. So that is also acting as a bridge between the South Asia and the Southeast Asia, and that's why these projects are very, very important. Now, have you any idea regarding if these connectivity projects are going in a full-fledged manner, it is going to not only boost the connectivity, but through connectivity trade, through connectivity people-to-people relations, through connectivity there are many other exchanges including the cultural exchanges, and that will also bring stability and good relations between these particular countries. And that's why this relation is very, very important, and through that relations, it is the connectivity project that has the potential in order to bridge the gap. Now, talking about the other pillars of the engagement, so as we already know that India had launched previously the Look East policy, and now we are working upon since 2014 onwards the Act East policy, where we are moving in an agile manner in order to connect the India through the northeastern region to the Southeast Asian country. So in that particular strategic aspect, Myanmar is the country which is getting fit. Apart from that northeastern future, because the development in the northeast will be possible if there is the stability in the region of Myanmar, because otherwise there will be anti-India actors that will be involved in the region of the northeast, and that too is getting shelter from the Myanmar region. And lastly, the China balancing, because what China is doing, even if India engages with Myanmar or not, China is already there. China has the deep roots in Myanmar. Apart from that, China is coming with the heavy pockets in the Myanmar region. And that's why it is for India to decide whether India want to go and get involved in this particular situation and trying to identify the practical solution. Because if India is not getting involved in the situation of Myanmar, because see, don't forget the statement that was provided by Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, the former Prime Minister of India, that we can change our friends, we can change our foes, but we can't change our neighbor. We can't deal with geography. And that's why that particular geography is going to come into picture. And that's why the balancing of China will be important. And here the Myanmar again is going to play very important role. So if India have to navigate clearly in this particular entire situation, jahan par India and China are in the rivalry, Myanmar ka support and the realistic aspect or the realistic foreign policy from the side of India, or we can say the pragmatism from the side of India, is going to play very important role. Now, what options India do have? Now, finally, when we have to talk about the options, obviously, we can't reject the democracy, because in Myanmar also there are democratic forces that are highlighting, but we can't reject them. But yes, we have to also talk about them simultaneously regarding the Aung San Suu Kyi. But apart from that, we don't forget the realistic aspect in the foreign policy. Though there is the military rule, but this is the same military rule China is also dealing. That's why we have to also consider the reality, and that's why we also have to protect our national interests by getting involved with the military leadership. So what is the solution? Where the solution lies? It is the practical diplomacy over the ideological isolation that had costed India in past, but we should not allow that particular thing to cost in the future. That's why the foreign policy should be directed towards the pragmatism, and that will be by engaging the countries even if in the conflict, but then engaging all the sort of actors so that India can get the practical solution in this particular regard, right? And lastly, security is not optional. Security is the necessity. That's why for India to rise the global power, stabilizing the immediate neighborhood is not just the diplomatic choice, it is a strategic necessity. So whatever we have discussed, that is relevant not only from UPSC perspective, but other than that also in order to get a general awareness related idea regarding the recent visit of the Myanmarese president and then the result of that particular visit in terms of the connectivity and the strategy of India. I hope that you have got certain aspect of clarity regarding this particular topic. We'll meet again in another set of interesting topic. Thank you.